and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori La Bey, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I am thrilled you are able to join us today. We are going to be talking with Heather Morrison, who has a young family, 4 children under the age of 12, and a husband with early onset Alzheimer's disease. And their story is absolutely incredible. It's not going to be one that you want to miss. But for those of you that are new to our show, Alzheimer's Speaks is about sound information, not just sound bites. Our goal is really to raise all voices, big and small, around the world. So maybe, just maybe, you can be our next guest. Just reach out to me at radio@alzheimersspeaks.com. I'm going to do a couple of shout outs. One is to Dementia Map, the global resource directory. We have over 150 different categories people can search. There's a glossary of terms, there's an events calendar, and some wonderful articles on there as well. And don't worry about being hacked or any of that. You don't have to sign in. You don't have to give us any information. There's not going to be any pop-ups bothering you. You can just easily browse the directory on your own. And if you're interested in being part of the directory, that is very easy to do too. And I'd be more than glad to speak to anybody on that, or they can just go to the Join Dementia Map area. What else do I want to tell you about? Alzheimer's Speaks has updated their website, so please check that out. It's just alzheimersspeaks.com. You will find a tab that says free educational resources. Lots of different things there that you can scroll through. And there's also things you can participate in, like maybe being a guest on the radio show here. Maybe you have a loved one or are dealing with dementia yourself. Maybe you want to be part of dementia chats, where our true experts, those diagnosed, tell us what life is like. And we talk about a bunch of different topics. So there's all kinds of videos there. Also, dementia in the arts. If you are living with dementia or know someone living with dementia who loves art, I facilitate a conversation with them about their artwork. And we do a video to display that. So all kinds of other things, from memory cafes and becoming dementia friendly, a poetry section. And then, of course, we also have our brand new book that is out. So you can just go to the book tab and read all about the different reviews. It's called Betty the Bald Chicken Lessons in How to Care. And I have to be honest, I'm just a little overwhelmed with the response that we are getting to the book. It's been fabulous. So we are going to hear from the Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner, and we'll be right back with our guest.
I love the footbar walker, and let me tell you why. It is the option for my toolbox that I've been waiting for. Let's be honest, there are some clients who, despite our best rehab efforts, just aren't able to return to performing a sit-to-stand transfer on their own. Now I can offer my caregivers an easier, safer option that doesn't involve hoisting their loved one up from a sitting position. I don't recommend this walker for all of my clients, but I do recommend this walker for those caregivers looking for an easier, safer option with transfers. I would also encourage other therapists to add this walker to their toolbox. It's kind of like having my own mobile parallel bars for the client to pull up on. Whether it's a family caregiver at home helping a loved one with Parkinson's or dementia, CNAs in a long-term care facility assisting their patients, or therapists adapting to client and caregiver specific needs, we now have a very safe and effective option to offer in the footbar walker. Check this product out at thefootbarwalker.com. That's it for today from Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. Have a great day, and don't forget, if you can't do it, adapt it.
Okay, we are back. And today, again, I'm going to be talking with Heather Morrison, who is a former high school teacher. And now she is the mother of an 11-year-old boy and 3 8-year-olds. So she's got triplets, and she is the current care partner to her husband, Kevin, who was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 47. He used to be a collegiate coach for basketball, where they traveled the country. They are currently living in San Diego, California, where Heather was born and raised. So it's nice that she is back kind of in a setting with some support there. And, you know, since Kevin's diagnosis, life has really changed. They have all learned to embrace the dementia journey as a family and to be able to find moments of joy together. So, Heather, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. It's such an important one, and one that, you know, there's so many people out there that think dementia and Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body, it only hits older people. They're the only ones affected. And boy, we're gonna flip that on its head, just like we're flipping a pancake in a pan here today. I want to ask, because I ask every guest if they've been touched by dementia, and I want to hold on the information with your husband, Kevin. But have you experienced dementia through other family members or people, circle of friends?
I have not. And to be very honest, when we first started this whole process, I distinctly remember telling my girlfriends I wasn't worried about Alzheimer's disease because it was an old person's disease. So I was one of those naive people thinking that this only touched older people. I had no idea. And I wasn't educated on it at all. And we've just been thrown into this, and it has definitely been eye-opening.
Oh, for sure. Well, you're not, like I said, you're not alone. And that's how it was pitched for many, many years. It was an older person's disease. I've actually interviewed parents with children with dementia, and people are like, well, that's not possible. And it's like, anything is possible, and we have to take a broader stance. We all have to get more educated, the public and physicians alike out there with this disease. Let's talk about prior to diagnosis. What was your life like prior to diagnosis? Let's start there.
Prior to diagnosis, it was almost as busy as it is now. It was just a different capacity. My husband was a college basketball coach, so he traveled a lot. I stayed at home with our children. I used to teach high school prior to becoming a mom. And, we have moved around. We started off in Seattle, Washington for 4 years, and we were out at Georgia Tech in Atlanta for some years, and then back to San Diego, which is where I was born and raised. So I'm glad we got back to family. But the kids, right now we have an 11-year-old and we have 8-year-old triplets, and they're all involved in different sports, and they always have been. And, it's always getting from here to there and doing everything. And I've been really, really trying hard to keep everything the same for them and letting them being involved in what fills their bucket. And it's definitely difficult because now I don't have someone to divide and conquer with me. Someone that can drive, someone that can watch, someone that can help pack lunches or pack bags. So it's definitely a difficult task to take on mom and dad role right now.
Well, and that emotional support that your partner gives you, of just like when you have to complain or whine or someone understand, I'm tired.
Absolutely.
That's a huge, huge loss. What types of symptoms was Kevin having that made you think something was off? And who recognized him? Was it him? Was it you? Was it his basketball team or schools?
Prior to him going and seeing a doctor, I had noticed in 2019 some vision changes. I distinctly remember us driving on the freeway one day and him going really, really slow. And I just thought, hey, he's getting closer to 50, maybe some vision changes. But, kind of asked him like, hey, have you made your eye appointment check? It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. And he was asking for directions how to get home. And so that kind of stood out, but I just thought, well, maybe he's just, was just confused at the time. I didn't think much of it. Mm-hmm. And I told him which way to go. And I said, when the freeway splits, stay, left. And he went over like 3 lanes and went right. And I thought, well, that was just, odd. But again, didn't think much of it. I also remember him starting to be a little bit more snippy with me, but I thought, it could have just been the stress of us moving back to California. Cost of living was different. Pay was different. At that time, we were still living in my mom's home while we were looking for a rental. So of course it was stressful, He also would continually ask me, what's the schedule today? What's the schedule today? And, but I never, 4 busy kids. What husband really remembers, a kid's, 4 different kids' schedules. So nothing stood out. But it was when COVID hit, when he decided to go to the doctor because he had some free time, because he wasn't at work. Mm-hmm. And I guess he had been talking to his doctor about some things he had noticed. And all of this was over the phone, let's go do this test. Let's do this, everything kept coming back normal. Mm-hmm. But I think he realized something wasn't normal. And that's when he talked to me about it. And, we kept pushing for more and more testing because we both knew something wasn't right. There was another time where I gave him directions like, here's for dinner. It's all right here on the top shelf. Everything's cut up. The chicken is marinating. You just have to barbecue it. And I got a text message that said like, geez, thanks for leaving us dinner. And I was like, what, like what? And, he said, yeah, the chicken is frozen. And I thought, wow, like I really thought I defrosted it. And when I came home, he had gotten the frozen chicken out of the freezer, like the 20-pound bag from Costco, defrosted all of it, and then barbecued everything, and then saw what was in the refrigerator. So it was that visual spatial awareness. He just couldn't see the food and didn't remember that it was there.
Yeah. So and that executive function of process and stuff too, in terms of, no, I don't need the whole bag.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And then after, we didn't tell anyone for over a year. And then after because we weren't sure and we didn't believe it either. Yep. And after we, went public with his diagnosis, tons of basketball players and coaches had told me they noticed stuff, but they just thought, oh, he was nervous or he was stressed or he was thinking about something else. Like everything just seemed to have a normal excuse or a, validated reason as to why he may have forgotten something or lost something. So,
well, and it is, it's, we all age differently. We all go through our times, and we all know stress causes us, to lose those connections and not be on as track as we used to be, not be
absolutely.
And so in this fast-paced world, and when you've got, job changes and moving and traveling and 4 little kids on top of all that. That's a lot. Then multiply it, like you said, times all of their games and activities in school. And I mean, it's a ton for anyone to juggle
Correct.
with that. Oh my gosh. So as far as work goes, when did he leave his position? Did he continue to still work during that year then?
He did not. That week that the world shut down, I'll never forget it. It was, Friday, March 13th. We were all home, and when I started noticing some more changes, slurring words, things like that, I just thought it was because we were stuck home, trapped, for so long. We've never been around each other this much. And he had stopped working because his contract was also up. I believe it was like the end of April or May, and nobody was hiring anyway. There was nothing to do. So we so we were just home. And in a way, it was our, safe place, because we hid this for a year and just stayed home. He never left the house. He didn't have any reason to talk to anyone. So people weren't really able to catch on. Nobody knew about this because it was like we were in hiding.
Now, did you tell the kids about it at all, or that's
kids,
a big diagnosis to kind of wrap their heads around?
Correct. They knew something was wrong. And we didn't really tell them, we just kind of said, Daddy's brain is playing tricks on him. We just need to help him, because they would laugh at him. He would say things like, go brush your hands for dinner. And they would just giggle like, why are you being so silly? Or, obviously all the parks and things were closed. So we did lots of things in the backyard together and basketball. And he would get angry and think that the kids were throwing balls at him. And they weren't. It was just his visual spatial awareness and him not being able to react when they were passing a ball, or, a ball would hit the rim and come at him, and he, started getting defensive. And so I just explained to the kids that, his brain's playing tricks on him. His eyes were playing tricks on him, because we didn't know, and we didn't understand ourselves. And it wasn't until I would say the following, in 2021, where they knew he had received Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's diagnosis. And we did the walk together out here, and lots of friends came and did the walk with us. And so that was, really empowering for the kids. They felt very supported. And then we went and did the walk in Phoenix as a family with the 4Mom Foundation. And they were listening to the whole speech. They didn't listen in October in San Diego. We weren't there by the stage to hear all this. And so they were listening. And that's when they realized that there was no cure for this. And that's when they looked at me and they said, is Dad gonna die?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's tough. And how old were the kids then at that time?
Jayce was 9 and the triplets were 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
And a tough thing to hear as a kid, especially when they don't quite understand what all that means either, to the depths that an adult does.
Right.
With that. Now, how did you handle that?
We just had lots and lots of conversations about it. We talked about things that might happen. We found Lorenzo's house. who has a great support group for kids,
Mhm.
and they are really loving that. And so they've been educating themselves as well.
Mhm.
And we've just all been working together as to how we can support Kevin and one another as we go through this and try and navigate it. They're really, really good at seeing when he needs something or picking up on his cues. When he starts to circle, the living room. Oh, Dad, do you need to use the restroom? Let me, and they'll hear this way. And they're very, very helpful, and they want to help. And sometimes they want to help too much. He gets a little overwhelmed. But sometimes when they see me getting, frustrated, they'll remind me, Mom, say it this way, or Mom, stop for a second, and then give them a minute and then say it again. And so they are taking the tools that they're using, and they're helping me as well to try and be a better caregiver. So we just are kind of all trying to do it together.
What a team effort. And as bad as this situation is, the lessons they are learning in terms of compassion and empathy and not being judgmental, those are priceless, and unconditional love, at multiple
absolutely.
levels. Now, have you ever heard of kid caregivers?
I have not.
I'm going to connect you with Haley Richmond. She's like 15. She has 2 nonprofits. Her grandma, I believe, had dementia. She wrote a book or helped illustrate a book called, I think it's called Why's Grandma's Underwear in the Refrigerator with Max Wallace. But she has been just this little go-getter. She also has another group called let's see, what's it called? Puzzles to Remember. And they get all these puzzles and then they send them out to families and communities. But the kid caregiver group is really about having a support group for younger kids and then getting them involved in their community as well. With people with dementia, and just having a little more active role, which it sounds like your kids already have that going, but it might be another support for them.
Yes.
Because it is, like I said, Haley's been doing this for ages and she's only 15,
Wow.
She's just really something else. And she's got groups going all over the world now. It's just something to see her do, and has really been lifting. So I'll connect you with that.
Awesome.
And Lorenzo's house, they're just doing such amazing things. So that's absolutely wonderful that you've connected with them,
because there's just nothing out there for kids. That was the thing. I just didn't know how to explain this to our children.
Well, and adults say there's not enough out there for us to
exactly
support. Well, and the kids weren't even on, they weren't even on the block in terms of a list of what to do. Kind of like, with my mom, she lived with dementia for 30 years. She was older when she started having symptoms, in her mid 50s, and lived till 86. But, back then, no one talked to the person with dementia at all. No one really took the care partners seriously, and kids, like, they weren't there at all. And I think the people living in the trenches have so much to share, and we've got to have these platforms, one, to educate and support them, but also to allow them to be able to share their stories and feelings of the reality, because, to me, through storytelling is how we really change the world, how we open up the conversation, and how we make people aware of what are the true needs, which is something that I want to go over next. But first, I just want to say, if anyone's just popping in on us right now, we are talking with Heather Morrison, whose husband was diagnosed with early onset dementia. So she is caring for him plus 4 children under 12. And so talk about a handful and a half there. So let's talk about, because I think this is a real important piece too. You're an at-home mom taking care of your kids. Your husband's working full time as a coach and traveling around. And the diagnosis hits, his contract ends, COVID hits. What the heck did you guys do financially? Was there support out there for you at all?
It was a true nightmare. We both had unemployment because I substitute taught at the kids' school. I was able to get a minimum. He was able to get something, and then stimulus checks. And then also after a couple months, it all started to go downhill. After his diagnosis, the doctor suggested filing for state disability. And so we did. And then we found out that his last employer did not pay into state disability. They only paid into a private disability, and it was only valid while he was an active employee. And then unemployment got wind of this, and they wanted their money back because they said, well, if he had this diagnosis, he couldn't really have been looking for work. And then we fought that for over a year and got that dismissed. We got a very nice judge that just said, I'm so sorry about this. And then
added stress to have to go through on top of all this other stuff.
Yeah. And then it was, okay, you can't get SSI because you own a vehicle. You couldn't have more than $3,000 in assets. And then we couldn't get cash aid because they wanted me to come to a 30-hour-a-week class on how to get a job. And I said, but this isn't the problem. And I can't leave my husband at home alone, with our children who were on Zoom school. That was the other added stress factor. So there was, and there still is, lots of recycling and selling the kids, clothes and shoes and toys. I had sold all of our furniture at one point, a majority of our furniture, and then got donated furniture from, Facebook Buy Nothing groups. And, we made it all work. My mom has been a huge help. My godmother also was a huge help. We had a couple different organizations and charities and churches help with groceries and rent. We had gone through, college savings. So I've managed to make it work, and I still am, but it has definitely not been easy at all.
Oh my gosh, no. And I just think of, when anybody has any financial stress, that just takes a toll. And that's your secondary stress.
Correct. And the scary part is the unknown of the future. He lost his life insurance when his contract was up. He didn't continue to read that he needed to pay still, because his life insurance policy was taken automatically out of his paychecks. Well, when his paycheck stopped, the life insurance stopped being paid for. And that was something he couldn't comprehend. So we lost that, lost the health insurance. And then, we looked at these memory care facilities last summer. We started looking at them because we know eventually one day it's inevitable that, it may get to be too much for me and the kids to, handle. And these, the one he really liked was about $8,500 a month out of pocket. And the second one that he liked would cost us a little over $11,000 a month out of pocket. And I just don't know how we would even begin to pay for that, plus our own bills. And, my mom looked at the director and she's like, how do people pay for this? And she's like, oh, well, people cash in their retirements and sell their homes and this and that. And my mom's like, they're a young family. They can't do that. That would put this family on the street. So what do we do? There isn't an answer. And it's the not knowing of when this would happen, or could he be in a home for 6 years? He could. And then how would I pay for that? That it's mind boggling.
Well, and like my mom, she was in a nursing home for 14. People are like, well, they don't live that long. Well, you know what?
Yep.
People say they don't have it for 30 years either. And she did, you don't know what's what. I mean, and when it comes to, assets and things like that, I mean, I've heard of couples getting divorced so that but then I've also heard that when they do the look back, they can say, well, you just did it for this reason too. And there's just no good answers.
There really isn't. I found out about an assisted living waiver program, and I called and checked on it, and the man I spoke to told me the wait list was 3 years. And I was like, well, geez, thanks.
Yep. Well, then a lot of people put their name on the list because you never know.
Right.
It could be shorter than that or longer than that. But at least you get a call just in case. But it's just so frustrating when I hear these stories, and it doesn't seem like we've really made much for progress in terms of supporting families that get hit with early diagnosis like this.
No, we've talked a lot in our family about brain health, because, as a kid, when I went to school, you learn about your muscles and the heart and obesity and junk food and, how that affects your body. But I can't remember ever learning about brain health. And I really feel like that should be changed, and that should be brought up in schools. Brain health is pretty important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely important. And it's one of those things too, where it's so far reaching, and, everyone is hit a little bit different with all of this stuff. And, you guys went through the whole, realm of COVID. We still are kind of hanging out to see what the effects of COVID are going to be, because there's a lot of people saying
right,
affected their brain as well. So as high as the numbers are that people talk about, they're still low, because there's a lot of people who haven't gotten diagnosed, who haven't gone in. And, it's going to be really interesting to watch. What would you say to another family who is thinking this might be the issue or has gotten recently diagnosed? Any advice?
One, they're not alone, but I would, if your gut is telling you something is wrong, keep pushing for more and more testing. Kevin's diagnosis wasn't revealed until he got a PET scan.
Okay.
And then, because they kept saying, oh, your MRI and CT scan, and everything was normal.
Mm-hmm.
But we pushed and pushed and pushed, and then got the PET scan. And then we were also able to get an amyloid PET scan, which confirmed, because we just didn't want to believe it. We just weren't sure, how could this happen to a 47-year-old with no family history of this? His doctor said, it could have just been the perfect storm of his job. Coaching is a high stress job, not always, consistent sleep and consistent exercise and diet. Some people think that when basketball season is over, your job is done, and that's not really the case. With a collegiate coach, you go all the time. So we don't have any idea, but, they're not alone, and there is help out there. So.
Well, and I think that's one of the most difficult things is when people, if it's early onset or not, people feel so isolated and alone. Information isn't readily available. I would love to see the doctors much more educated in terms of resources that are out there. And I think personally, that's lacking big time. And what I have found, and tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I just found being able to talk with other people going through the situation was probably one of the most helpful things versus, I mean, it's nice to know the stats and the basics and stuff, but when you're caring, I just found I needed that emotional support of someone really understanding, not just like book smarts. I don't know if I'm saying that.
Yes, no. There's a couple other women that I text with and that have connected with through social media. And it's nice to vent and kind of complain that this is not fair or this is not fun, because you don't always want to do it and complain to your friends and just be so negative all the time. But it's nice to not be judged by someone else that's like, yes, you are right. This is not okay. Or this happened to us today, or they've done it. They've been through the same thing. Yes, I can relate. I just had to do the same. It's nice to be able to vent to somebody that is going through the exact same thing. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things so many people say about talking with family members. They're not around. They don't really get it. They pop in, if it's every couple weeks or once a year, they're not seeing the whole picture, and they make me feel like I'm crazy. And I already feel like I'm going crazy because I'm in overload, and, it's not helping. Or they're telling me that I'm doing it wrong, which is even more frustrating because you're trying everything out there. I mean, this is a disease of kind of, trial and error care in a lot of ways, because every person is so different.
Right. And it changes because what works 1 week might not work 2 weeks later.
Exactly. For you, can you explain to our audience what a normal day is like for you, kids and hubby all together? I think it would be good for them to hear how much is really on your plate.
I wake up and I get the kids up and get them all fed and ready for school. Right before we get ready to leave, Kevin usually wakes up on his own, and I have to get him in the bathroom. And then the kids will usually assist with getting his shoes on. We'll walk to the car, go drop the kids off at school. We'll come home. And then at that point, I will feed Kevin. I'll shower him, get him ready for the day. Then I'll usually make him a snack after that, because that sometimes takes some time. I also, during that time, have started laundry because I usually have 2 or 3 loads a day, or, dishes. And then I'm usually meal prepping, for dinners and whatnot, because by the time, school gets out, we have to shuffle the kids around to different activities. Right now I have some hours of respite care that I've been using to have someone come and sit with Kevin while I'm doing this, because, it's just not really fair to keep shoving him in the car and going from place to place. But then it's Mondays we have baseball practice and volleyball, and Tuesdays it's basketball practice and yoga, and the kids are in therapy. And Wednesdays it's more baseball and soccer practice, and Thursdays it's baseball, Fridays it's baseball, and there's also Girl Scout meetings. And so every single day we have something to do, somewhere to go. And then it's homework after school and get ready for the next day and pack lunches. And, I've been trying to teach the kids to plan ahead, the night before, so that our mornings are, a little bit more smooth, and they pack their lunch and they pick out the outfit they're going to wear and they get their backpacks ready, just so that it's as easy as possible for us all. But it's 24/7, and just making sure that everyone is where they need to be, has everything they need, and that Kevin is taken care of. And then it's grocery shopping in there as well. It's everything.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, thank God the kids are like 11 and 8 now, because I just think if they were little babies on
I
top
know.
of this, and I've heard of people who are either pregnant or have a 2 and under child and are taking care of a husband with dementia as well. And I can't even fathom that. But with the
I
older
can't
ones,
either.
I think of the school projects and how intense all of that stuff is.
I have 4 projects right now. Yes. But they all have open house at the end of the month. And Jayce has a big project that he has to do on his heritage and a country, and the triplets each have a speech they have to memorize. So we're knee deep in projects as well.
Oh my gosh, that is just amazing. Well, you're working your way into sainthood, woman.
Thank you.
That is an awful lot. And I love how you're really trying to maintain balance for the kids and things, and even having them in therapy with all of this stuff. This is a lot to process.
It is. It is.
Process. And
it is.
As adults, we don't always process it as good as we should. So, having any type of support there is fantastic. Does Kevin ever go to like an adult day or?
He does. That actually recently began. That was another setback back in, I think it was October. He was referred to an adult daycare through his doctor, so it would have been covered by insurance. We went, they have to do a 3-day assessment.
Mm-hmm.
On day 3, they told me, we think he just needs too much help and too much assistance and one-on-one. So he can come if you sit here with him or provide someone to be here with him. And I was just like, what? Isn't this your job? Like to come up with his care plan. I was really starting to feel relief that, this is, I'm not going to have to take him to physical therapy, or I'm not going to have to take him to speech. I'm not going to have to take him to all these places each week, because this daycare will do it all. And so I was really, really frustrated and kind of stopped, everything for a couple of weeks, because I was being tired of being told no, 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 and at that time they also stopped doing his speech and physical therapy and occupational therapy, because cognitively he just couldn't understand. And so it was kind of a waste of time. And we found the Glenner Center here in San Diego, which specializes in Alzheimer's patients. And they have been wonderful. And it's an out-of-pocket expense. And he went a handful of times in January and, was very reluctant, like, but now he will go without a problem. And I think he enjoys it, because he'll go now, and sometimes he asks to go. So that's been nice. And it's only for 4 hours at a time. But during that time, I'm able to go to Costco, or I'm able to go grocery shopping, and I can do things a lot quicker than if I have to take him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you ever just like, I'm going to take a nap? I just need some sleep.
No. I should. I wish I could, but I just feel like I have to get as much done as possible.
Yeah, well, I think there's that guilt of if I do that, I know for me, in my situation was way less than yours. I would lay there and think of all the stuff I should be doing,
Yes.
and so I didn't really rest. So it was like, why stop? Just keep
Yes.
just keep pushing your way through. Well, the Glenner Center, they are absolutely wonderful. I'm glad that turned out to be a good connection for you. What lessons have you learned about yourself on this journey, Heather?
I'm stronger than I thought I was. And I'm just having to rely heavily on my faith and my love for my family right now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, being a former teacher in an at-risk area, I was always the giver and the helper. And now I've had to humble myself and ask for help and learn to accept it. That was very, very hard for, me to do, was ask for help from others.
Yeah. No, I understand that too, because I've always been kind of that fixer person, the supporter,
Mm-hmm.
the go-to, and to receive is not easy.
No.
Not in this world where we're supposed to be able to do it all ourselves and put our cape on and just, plug through it. And yet, I think in this world, we really are all about living in community and supporting one another. And I had to really, it was almost, I kind of had to get real stern with myself and go, Lori, think of how good you feel when you help somebody. Why are you denying others that to help you?
Right.
And that took me a long time and I still really struggle with that.
Yes.
But I really do believe that people do feel good about being able to help. And I think we are better when we allow people in, when we show our imperfections and we are our authentic selves, instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses and keep up kind of facades of what is possible, in the situation that we're in. So good for you. Have you found, because I found this, and I know everyone's journey is different, but I found like different levels of unconditional love I didn't know existed as the journey with my mom progressed.
A little bit. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I'm wondering with the kids, if they would even know what they're experiencing in terms of how they love and how they care, from before and now.
I'm not sure. I know that they struggle with trying to remember him before the diagnosis because they were so little.
Yep.
The triplets were in kindergarten and Jayce was in second grade. So they're trying to think back as to remember times, before that.
Okay. There's a group I just met called Artifacts, and it might be of interest to you, but it's kind of like a scrapbooking online, but you can do it with the family.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take pictures and objects, but to write a story behind them so that they don't forget, that they always have those little things with them. And
Mm-hmm.
the kids can participate in something like that as well. That might be something to do in your spare
Right.
time.
Yes. No, I'm trying so hard to capture, whatever I can for them.
Yeah.
That is a big regret that I have, is not getting Kevin to write the kids a letter. It was just like one day his writing ability was gone.
Yep.
He can no longer read. I can't even get him to say a sentence. I thought, well, I'll record something, but more than half the time, it just doesn't make sense, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And, I think as much as we want to capture those moments, maybe you capture the moments of the kids caring for their dad,
Yes.
because that's pretty phenomenal. When you were talking about, before we were recording, I think when the kids would say, well, Mom, do it this way. They have different ways in trying to be supportive and things. Those are pretty amazing skills that they've learned.
Yes.
And they really seem to understand the team effort as a family of we're in this together, which is so beautiful. So many families don't have that. And granted, you wouldn't wish this disease on
No, but I am very proud of them. That is for sure.
Yeah. So where does your family go from here, Heather?
I wish I knew, because it's just an unknown journey. We are learning to take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, because we've learned we can't really plan the next step, because we don't know when or where, that looks like yet. So we're just trying to live in the moment, cherish each day, and do what, fills our buckets. We've been taking the mental health breaks. I just took our oldest to Disneyland, just me and him, for the first time. It was his first visit. I'm trying to let them do kid things. We did Legoland a few weeks ago, and that was the first time we did something like that, and we did it without Dad. And one of the triplets, Myles, said, when I tucked him in bed that night, he was like, Mom, today was almost perfect. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah. He's like, it would have been a lot better if Dad was there, but I know we have to get used to being a family of 5. And that just broke my heart.
Oh my gosh. But the depth of understanding that our children have, that we don't think they're processing,
Right.
That.
And we talked about how, things that are fun for us aren't really fun for Dad, and they could be very scary and overwhelming, because we actually did do Legoland with him in June of 2021, and he was, a lot healthier back then, and was able to comprehend what was going on, but still was kind of confused, and he was very overwhelmed. And he has had a significant cognitive decline since then. So I bring up, do you remember how confused he was then? Do you think he'd be able to get on a ride now, or do that thing? Would that make our day fun? Would that be fun for you? Would that be fun for Dad? And we talked about how it would probably just be stressful and scary.
And people don't understand how crowds and noise and colors and movement and changes in light, all of those things have such a severe impact on
Yes.
people. And, you've got to keep their emotional health in mind too. And so I really appreciate that you and your family are doing that and understand the importance of that. I know some people out there can judge of, well, they should. And it's just like, you haven't been there. You don't
Right.
see, and you really do have to focus on, are they safe? Are they happy? And are they pain-free in a situation as
Right.
well? And to be able to create some of those moments. Well, Heather, this has just been an amazing conversation. You've had me close to tears a couple of times here.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's a story that needs to be heard. And so, in wrapping up, I feel confident that our listeners will feel the same as well. And I'm going to be wrapping you guys all in prayers. And
Thank you. Thank you.
The job you're doing is amazing. And
Thank you.
taking care of your kids, your husband, and doing advocacy, on top of it all,
Yes.
with all your other things that are happening. It's really quite incredible. So we will try to help spread the word as much as we can. To our listeners, I hope that you will like, click, and share this episode. It takes very little time, but it's very powerful when you help spread the word, when you become an advocate, when you realize there are people in your circle that you probably don't even know that are dealing with this. And somebody might not have early onset. Doesn't make any difference. There's so much overlap. It could be another chronic illness, not even related to dementia, but caring is caring, and illness is illness, no matter how you slice the bread. And we've got to be there for one another. So, be a giver of hope and push those, likes, clicks, and shares to help others out. We've got to connect people to resources way faster than what we're doing. And again, when you can hear from somebody in the trenches, to me, that was on my journey alone, that was life-changing. And I didn't realize I needed that until I heard others speak about it. I kind of thought, well, all I need is really the professional angle, but yet I knew there was a big gap. I didn't recognize necessarily what it was in the beginning until I did get connected with others actually on the journey. And it was life-changing. Just for people to not feel alone can really help with the depression that goes along with this disease, not just for the person diagnosed, but for those caring for them too. That's a real normal, stage that kind of ebbs and flows through this journey. So again, thank you so much. People can follow Heather. She is on Instagram as Heather, and then underline Kirk underline, and then Morrison 21. She is on Instagram as team, I should say underscore, not underline, team underscore Morrison 2, and on Twitter as the same. And then is it okay to give out your email if anyone
Absolutely.
wants to contact you, which is hrkirk, KIRK21 @hotmail.com. And if she doesn't get back to you right away, give her a break. She's got a lot on her plate.
I try.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. This is really
Thank you.
This will be a blessing to a lot of people. So thank you. So in wrapping up, I hope that you will check out alzheimerspeaks.com. And we have all kinds of free educational resources there. So please make sure you check that out. Also, from that section, you can find out about Dementia Map, which is a global resource directory with over 150 categories that you can check on. And if you are someone who has a service product or tool or support group, we'd love to have you be part of Dementia Map as well. Reach out to me. I'd be more than glad to give you a tour of that. And then, of course, I have to give another plug for the children's book, Betty the Bald Chicken, Lessons in How to Care. It really isn't dementia specific. It just talks about the impact we have on one another. And, especially when you feel like you don't fit in anywhere, how do you move forward? And there's some great questions there that we can talk about with our children who might be struggling. But I've had adults say, "Oh my gosh, this brings back so many memories," and it made me also realize as an adult how I care and how I can care better. So thank you again. Just go to alzheimerspeaks.com and we will talk to you short. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Meredith from the Senior Fitness with Meredith podcast, where I discuss all things for seniors, from fitness, your health and wellness journeys, how to be all over strong and beyond. I also have my mini podcast called Motivation with Meredith. It's a great, quick motivational pick-me-up for your days. Join me, listen now, search for Senior Fitness with Meredith on your favorite podcast platform.